Young black males from the suburbs are still choosing the streets. Now, I am 29 years old. This has been going on for as long as I've been alive and before then. So I'm curious to see what these older gentlemen think about it and why they think this is a phenomenon that happens, right? We've all seen it. No matter if you're from the suburbs, you know kids who try to act like they're from the streets. And if you're from the streets, you know people who grew up in better, or if you're from the hood, you know people who grew up in better situations than you, but still always want to be around your neighborhood. So let's get right to it.
Half the time, it's not the young brother living in poverty in the projects. No, these be the youngsters that live in the suburbs, whose families have deep six-figure incomes. Mama make 300,000, daddy make $500,000 a year, but he is so devoid of an identity.
Right. Literally, Dad, he hit it right on the nail right there. Devoid of an identity. And not only that, I think why you see this a lot, especially when it's kids who don't have an identity, like they they don't belong to a certain group, they don't play sports, they want to fit in. They're looking for a place to fit in. A lot of times that's the easy route to go, not only to fit in but to also attract women, right? Because you'll see women going after the athletes. If you don't fit in there, then you also look at the women that are going after like the quote unquote street guys or hood dudes or the guys that are always getting in trouble, and that's a lot of times an easier lane to fall into.
And he trying to portray something that he ain't never been, no, had no concept of.
Well, see, he living not in 5,000 square foot house in Pearland.
Right.
But when he goes around his peers and they ask him, where you from? He don't want to claim Pearland.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He said, I'm from Fifth Ward. Right. That's where his granny lived.
Right.
That's where his mom and his daddy grew up. Because he building his identity. And because his mama and his daddy still together, and his life don't look like NBA young boys, he ashamed of the fact.
Yeah, man, you'll see this a lot. People, great parents, great homes, parents got great jobs, but they kind of downplay that, and they're ashamed of it because they wanna fit in, they want to be cool, they want to hang out with the guys who don't have much because they look like they're having fun, they look like they got girls around. And the thing about it, you being that person that has access to a better lifestyle, those kids that have the impoverished lifestyles, they would love to be your friend. And sometimes it can go badly, right? Those kids might lead you down the wrong path, influence you to do certain things, or they'll steal from you. They will literally steal from you. I didn't grow up with having, everything I ever wanted, but, we had times that we were dirt poor, homeless, and we've had times that we were doing really good. But I knew a lot of kids that did do like really good. I'm talking about huge houses, and everybody always wanted to come over to their house and all that stuff. But a lot of times those kids would get taken advantage of. On the other hand, like, if you've got a lot of money, you got a bunch of pairs of designer clothes and all that stuff, you ain't gonna really notice if a thing or a clothing item goes missing here and there. Or maybe you just the type to lend out your stuff, like, oh yeah, bro, you can borrow that jacket, you can borrow those shoes, and then you start noticing you're not getting stuff back. It's because people don't really respect you, and that's because you are portraying something that you're not.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what I know. He's ashamed of the fact that he lives in a 2-parent household.
Right.
He's ashamed of the fact that his family got 3-4 cars. Right. Why? Because they'll always be able to accuse him of not getting it out the mud. Right. Oh, you had this handed to you.
Right.
So these are some of the really peculiar dynamics that I'm finding in these cases that I'm dealing with. So a lot of these youngsters, they have a lot of options and a lot of opportunity, but they are choosing the streets.
Yeah, man. And if you are young watching this, don't be that person. It's a lot of people who do grow up in the hood, grow up in the projects, and they feel like they have no choice, even though they may have choices and certain opportunities provided where they could get out of their situation or choose to do positive things with their time instead of being in the streets, falling into selling drugs or gangs and all that stuff. But it's easier said than done if you're not growing up in that person's shoes, in that situation. And for example, like I know people from Baltimore, and a lot of those projects, it gets grimy. It gets grimy, right? To where if you're a little kid, you got two choices: go outside, where you might end up getting into fights, or hide in the house. And a lot of times, those kids, you want to go outside and play, so you learn and you become tough, and you become street smart, and you learn how to understand certain things. And that's just the environment you grew up in. And there are great success stories of people who overcome those circumstances, but a lot of times it's death or jail, right? So if you have the opportunity to avoid all of that, I think it's way better for you and your development. And if you got kids that like they are, like you've worked hard, right, as a parent to put them in a big home, and they are still trying to portray themselves as a certain person, it's no problem with you getting in their ass a little bit. I ain't saying do no child abuse or nothing like that, but make sure they understand that they are privileged and that you worked hard for them to be privileged, not for them to want to go backwards to have to do some of the things that you may have had to do growing up, Yeah, man, it's a sad thing to see, but we see it a lot. And it's not even just black kids, right? It's any type of kid that grows up in the suburbs, and they see the media, they see what's going on in the music, TV, they see what the culture claims is cool and all that stuff, and they want to be a part of that without understanding everything that comes with it, the ins and outs, and the fact that also just the fact that, yeah, when you're a minor and you're a kid, it's cool. Oh, a little slap on the wrist, you go to juvie, and unless you end up murdering somebody, you probably get a little slap on the wrist for whatever you do. But when you're an adult and you haven't spent that time developing skills, working on yourself as a kid, and putting yourself in position to get a great job or start a business, or use your skill to make money, or go to college, go to the military, if you have none of those options afforded to you, you're like, well, even though my parents, they did raise me, and I got a little money to fall back on, you feel like you still need to be a man and make your own money. And then you end up doing some shit that you shouldn't have done, and that you going down a path that you never should have really went down. Very, very interesting thing that happens when it comes to kids, because it's like, yeah, I know you've all seen it. Maybe you were that kid. Me, I don't think I necessarily was that kid. Like I said, my father died when I was 13, and luckily I did have positive male role models through sports that kind of guided me in the right direction, even though I still kind of fell towards that street side a little bit too. But I would have been over there a lot more and probably done some worse things than I did if I didn't have sports in my life. A lot of my friends, they fell down that path, and it would be a lot of times it'd be the ones that had everything, man. They had everything provided for them, and you see it so much. You watch some of these videos of guys between 18 to 21 getting arrested. They want to call your mom. They don't want to call their mom, and usually it's something to do with scamming or stealing or something like that. And their parents like, I don't even know why you doing that. You got everything you need. You got everything you need. And a lot of times, everything they got at home, it still ain't enough. They still need to be able to flex like these other guys they watching on Instagram and all these social medias and all of that, man. So we got Charleston White here on Zeus and Belu. Forgive me if I said their names wrong. I don't watch their content, but I always see their clips. I know they're funny guys, but they're talking about private school here, and I think he's basically saying if you want your kid to develop, I guess, correctly, don't send them to public school. But let's see what he has to say about it.
White people with resources don't put their kids in public school. If LeBron would have went to public school, he would have never been LeBron James. That's why he went to a private Catholic school.
I don't know about that, about LeBron. I mean, it would have been, you have an easier route. I'm going to say going to a private school is going to be less distractions But I don't know LeBron's situation growing up and how he even got to private school, right? I know he went to his high school was a private school, but I'm not sure about his whole, like, since elementary school, he was always in a private school. I'm pretty sure if he was in private school, somebody else is paying for that for him because they saw his potential and his talent.
Kobe would have went to public school. He would have never been Kobe Bryant. That's why he went to a Catholic private school.
I'm pretty sure Kobe grew up overseas.
If you want to develop your child, you don't put your child in no public school to go deal in an environment where all of these children who live below the poverty level, because in most public schools predominantly kids get free lunch. That means your parents are poor, you're below the poverty level. That means you're either at or above or below. That means y'all don't have no money, and your mother had to prove this. That's why you get a free lunch. Why would you put your kid in this environment where the focus is all of these kids passing a test so the teacher can keep her job? It's not about teaching and developing your kids.
And that's the thing, right? Private schools, the reason why they get a little more leeway is because it's literally a private school. So the funding is mostly probably coming from alumni and maybe it's from the government too. But they've got a lot more money when it comes to private schools. Public schools is going to be based on, I guess, the accreditation of the school, in that if the kids aren't passing, it makes the school look bad, and probably less money is going to end up coming to that school. So it's kind of a rush to make sure that literally no child is left behind. Let's make sure they all pass, even if it's at the detriment of them all really learning everything they need to know.
Why would you put your kid in this unless you have to? Most people who want their kids to be something don't put them in public school system.
Yeah, I would say the only argument you really hear against that for public schools is that the environment will, toughen your kid up and make sure they're ready for life and certain things. But I'm pretty sure the bullying, especially in like a private middle school, is probably like the same level, if not. It probably gets to get bullied for different things. Like, it's like if you go to an inner city school versus a county school, it's going to be the same type of stuff going on, but it's just kind of on different levels of money wise. But for the most part, what he's saying here, I definitely agree with. For when I think about kids that I know that went to private school and how they are doing in life now, even when I think about most of the athletes, when I think about NFL players, NBA players, and the ones that I know that actually went to private school, they are well developed. They speak very well. They know what to do after they finished playing the sport that they loved and they played all their life. They kind of have like an easier transition into a more so normal life, rather than you got a lot of hurdles to get through as an athlete or as a student in general growing up and going to public school. Man, you gotta worry about people bullying, you gotta worry about fights, you gotta worry about drugs, you gotta worry about stuff happening after school. You got to make sure you get your work done all in between this. And it's just a more toxic environment. I never went to a private school, so I'm pretty sure they can get toxic. But just the fact that, say you go to a private school and everybody's wearing a uniform, that already saved you thinking power and brain power in the morning, just worrying about what you want to wear today and, how many times did I wear this fit and when is the last time I wore this and all that different type of stuff that public school kids got to think about. And it's harder for them to even choose some of those things because they have less money and less clothes and all that different stuff, versus if you got more money but you don't even have to worry about how much money you got because you got uniforms and everybody's wearing the same thing. That does make the environment a little bit less toxic, and you got to worry about getting distracted by the girls coming to school in leggings and all that different stuff every day. And I would just say Public school is probably a little bit more toxic. Like I've heard many people say, oh, no matter how much money I got, I'm sending I'm sending my child to public school so they can get that experience and be ready for life. I agree with that as well, man. So I think it's just it comes down to parenting, how well your child develops. And in the end of the day, there are great kids that come out of private school and great kids that come out of public school, terrible kids that come out of private school, and terrible kids that come out of public school. Probably a little bit more depending on which side of the coin you on. Like you could say, yeah, more bad kids come from public schools and more great kids come from private schools. You probably can say that. I'm not gonna say that it's probably true right there, but it can be either way depending on the parenting, man. A lot of those private school kids, they get into drugs, they get into sex, they get into all the same things that you can get into in public school. It's just less readily available, you know?
I just wanna be great, just to be great, be great.